Hi, it's Mark here, still, as you can see, in lockdown in my parents' house, hopefully not for too much longer. And today it's my 11th video about Dragon Games products, and the subject of today's video is Argor, which is my original fantasy RPG. It's both a full set of rules and also a complete game world resource as well. The background behind me here is part of the map of Argor. We've got a western continent there called Asterium, an eastern continent called the Eastlands, and the main part where most of the action is, I guess, is in Asterium, in particular this bit here between these two mountain ranges, and this is called Alenia, for reasons that will be made clear. Okay, let's have a look at the cover so we know what I'm talking about. There we have it, and hopefully the cover gives the clue that this is high fantasy. This is the world of dungeons and armour and taverns and crossbows. The rationale behind it was, I mean, probably everyone who's been involved in fantasy games has wanted to invent their own at some point. And that was no different from that. They never really happened. I came up with some truly awful early attempts. And then, more recently, middle daughter, Ellen, was really into the Lord of the Rings films when they came out. And that got her into RPGs. And she asked, could I design a game for her? I said, yeah, of course I can. I've had some ideas over the years. So I got to it. Long story short, took me a long time. Kept getting waylaid by other projects and life in general, and realised I had to actually gain some knowledge and teach myself some skills before I could do justice to this. Finally, I did it. 7 years later, after starting it, Argor was completed, and I sent it to Ellen. Now, here's the thing about kids growing up. What a 10-year-old girl finds cool is not necessarily what a 17-year-old girl finds cool. So it might have had more impact if I managed to knock it together the first couple of years. However, she's still very appreciative of it, and I still see her using it to this day, particularly as a resource for locations and an idea for races to use in games. Okay, so that's the rationale. Well, the rationale is it was done for someone who was quite young and coming to the hobby via Lord of the Rings. So that's really the philosophy behind it. The rules, hopefully, you'll find are quite straightforward, and the feel of it is very Tolkien-esque, and that's deliberate. I make absolutely no secret of the fact that I'm drawing heavily on the Tolkien view of fantasy worlds. It goes beyond that, but that is a big rationale behind it, making it familiar to someone who likes Lord of the Rings, likes The Hobbit. Okay, let's have a look, and you'll be happy that I disappear there, at the contents. Though I do say so myself, you get a lot for your money. It's 175 pages in total. Initial introductions, how to create a character, how to use skills, how to carry out combat, use of magic, possessions, etc., the religions that are available. Then you've got quite a big section, section 8, on all the aware races. The aware races are the ones that walk upright and talk and carry weapons and fight, and cast magic, cast spells, etc. So you'll see quite a few there which are very familiar to everybody. Humans, obviously, but halflings, orcs, dwarves, elves. But some of my own creations like Skiturish, Rhodus and Yggissa. And some which are just basically, for copyright reasons, Tolkien-esque type races with different names. So the Banes are Balrogs, Treefolks, and Ents. Here we've got something about dragons, bestiary of dangerous wild animals, some history to give some context of Argor, plenty of maps, I guess a tier of locations, discussions about the languages in there, how you pronounce words. And finally, after about 99 pages of rules, you then got a further 70 odd pages of appendices of useful information. I hope you find it useful. Guidance for new players, guidance on new GMs, how to play Argor Light, which is a simplified version of the rules. I'll talk about that in a moment. A solo adventure for Argor Light, a full scenario for use with the full rules, character sheets, both blank and populated, a city resource, a location resource called the Seven Isles. You've got a technical manual which talks about some of the stats and how you can how the knowledge of those stats will help you design scenarios. And at the end there, you've got a couple of sections of reference tables and some colour pictures to allow you to make a GM shield. So that's what you get for your, I think it's $7.95. Okay. Moving on next to character sheet, because that, as everyone knows, is an important part of the game. So the character sheet, just click on it, it doesn't disappear. Well, there's the start of it anyway. As you can see, the character sheet is quite standard. You've got a number of quite familiar attributes at the top there, which you roll for. Strength, dexterity, constitution, willpower, and intelligence. Based on those rolls, you look at the table and you get modifiers, and those modifiers then allow you to populate these skill types. So modifiers will go in there and you'll end up with 3 times that combat factor as points to allocate amongst these specific skills. 3 times your agility modifier gives you a total there which you allocate amongst these skills. And what happens is you can try anything. Anyone can pick up a bow and try and fire it. But to get any good of it, you need some bonuses. And these points you spend give you those bonuses. So it's quite straightforward. There's no character classes. You basically define your character by what they can do rather than what class they're in. So if you want to have an elf who's very stealthy, who's great at unarmed combat, brilliant at finding things, there's obviously further sections down here which I'm not going to show you, has a great knowledge of seafaring, you can do that. That's where if you want to spend those points there, that's fine. The absolute maximum a character can have is +8. So +8 would be the very, very top level expert in any particular discipline. And I advise that you don't let starting characters get that high. I think I advise it should no more than +6, but you may even think that's too generous as a GM. Up to you, but I don't think someone should start as an expert. That's it basically. You then have rolls of skill to define what happens, and every roll is 2d6, and the aim of every roll is to roll high. So basically, if you had a adroitness skill of skill bonus of +3, and you wanted to pick someone's pocket, and the GM says, okay, I think you need a score of 13 to pick that pocket and not be noticed. You need to get 13 with your bonus. So in other words, you'd have to roll 10, and then you'd have your bonus to make it 13. So that would be quite a difficult feat. But then again, it's possible. And that's how it works. You have a target score, or you have a contest of scores, which are decided by throwing 2d6 and adding the bonuses. That's it, really. Hit points, pretty straightforward hit points. They're generated based on the character's robustness, with the random factor as well. Psyche, that's basically, I guess, like luck or karma or mental strength. That's on a 3 to 18 scale as well. And then there's areas to write down what sort of shields and armor and weapons you've got, and so on and so forth. You can have magic casters, of course. There's magic in this. If you sacrifice certain benefits during the startup phase, you can have a magical character with the GM's permission. Now, magical characters in Argor are not limited in other stuff they can do. They can have armor and fight if they want, but they can also cast spells. Spells, certainly in the early phases, are not earth-shattering. They're useful rather than overwhelmingly powerful, which I think is a kind of take on magic I want in Argor. I want it to be useful and not overwhelming. Okay, that's your character sheet. Let's zoom in on one particular aspect of using skills, and that's combat skills. So here you have an excerpt. I've chosen this excerpt because it actually has a summary of all the weapons that are available. For each weapon, quick description, a picture, although I'm sure you know what a sword looks like, the damage it does, how you use it in melee, in ranged weapons. It's a sword, so you can't use it in range as a ranged weapon. And then these size restrictions. Humans are D. So basically a great sword will be a 2-handed sword for a human. With a larger race, like a giant, could probably use one single-handed. Smaller races can't use it at all. It's just too big for them. Damage is very straightforward. There's no rolling for damage. If you win a round of combat, you do the damage that weapon does, with a couple of chances of modifier depending on your roll. So you might double it or you might halve it. But you don't roll dice to decide damage. And damage, so a sword would do, normal great sword would do 4 hit points damage. If you've got a very expensive one, exceptionally sharp, it would do 5 hit point damage. Plus any strength bonuses, so you could do more. And of course you can have magic weapons, which are +1, +2, whatever. Okay, so that's basically combat. How you resolve combat is both people involved in the combat roll a dice, add their bonuses. Whoever came out higher wins and inflicts damage. That's it. Simple as that. If the scores are tied, you both parry each other and no harm is done to anybody. That's how you resolve melee combat. What about ranged weapon combat? Well, in that case, you look up on this table and that tells you what roll you need to hit somebody at range. So let's say you're firing at a human, which are class D. You've got a longbow, which has got a base range of 50 yards, and they're about 140 yards away. So they're more than 2 times base range, but less than 3 times base range. So you're going to roll on 3 times base range table. You need to score 15. So if you've got no bonuses, don't bother, because you can't actually roll higher than 12. But if you've got a use bow bonus of +5, then actually you just need to roll 10. If you roll a 10, you've had your bonus of 5, you've hit that 15, you've hit them. Be a good shot, but you've hit them. And so on. As you can see, larger classes, larger races, easy to hit because, they're bigger. 0 class objects, there's no 0 size race, but if you want to shoot at something small, you might want to shoot at a bird because you really want to eat it that evening for tea, then you use this row here. That's it. So basically, you roll against somebody in melee, but you roll to hit the number on this table for ranged weapons. I won't go into magic. Magic is very straightforward. You do a list of spells. Using a spell uses up some of those psyche points you have. When you use up your psyche points, or when other people's magical attacks robs you of psyche points, you can't cast any more spells until you've had a good night's sleep, and upon which your psyche points regenerate. Excuse me. Right, we got quite a bit about the actual different races. Humans are split into different types. Here's a Southman who's from the southern part of the continent of Asterium. And you've got a little bit about each of the types of human and each of the races. So in the case of the Southman, you can see they value intellectual prowess. They like smart people. They like logic, and they're very honourable. That said, these human types have always got a dark side. So just like in Tolkien and just like in our world, humans can be good or bad. And you can have good Southmen and bad Southmen. And the same goes for the others, the Eastmen, the Valemen, and the Northmen. They can all be positive and they can all have negatives, and they can all end up fighting on either side in a particular conflict. It's not all about humans, of course. It would be kind of a boring fantasy game with just humans in. So we've got some races, and here's one of my original races, the Rhodus. Rhodus are obviously rat people are in lots of games, so I'm not going to claim they're completely original, but here's my take on rat people. And for each of these races, you get the basic stats on how to create them, what they align with. Rhodus, they're not particularly evil, not particularly good. They'll ally with whoever they want. And a little bit about what they're like, what they look like. You get a diagram, of course, what their history is, who their enemies are, who their friends are, so on and so forth. And you get that for all the races. Okay. It's not just about the rule set, as I mentioned before. There's a lot of location resources. I really like to set the world of Argor. So you have a gazetteer, and the gazetteer has just a paragraph about all the major locations in the world, with a few illustrations thrown in there. And plenty of maps. I think I mentioned there's quite a few maps in various different styles. So this one is a faded out map. So the actual geography is faded out to allow the titles and the names of the different parts of this map to stand out. And this is Elenia, which is probably the key area. If you're thinking of a Tolkien-esque type area, it's Elenia. That's a good place for the characters to start out. Named after the middle daughter, that's where it gets its name from. A few things to point out. You've got a large archipelago here, land, sea. You've got a little small one here, the Seven Isles, which is a good place to start a campaign because it's like a little microcosm of Argor, and maybe a good place for beginners to start. Various realms, all their history is explained in the Gazetteer and in the history of Argor. Worthy of mention here is Westernhome. You'll find this idea of a blessed land in the Western Ocean it's quite common in literature. We've got Atlantis in our world, and we've got Numenor from Tolkien's world. And in both cases, it's an example of a very proud and haughty nation, which is eventually undone by its pride, and the island is destroyed and sinks beneath the waves. Well, Westernhome is that island, with a very haughty type of human called Westernhome humans, who are a bit special, and they know it. But they're not yet beyond help, so it could go either way. They could end up being a force for good. They could end up being a force for evil, who will have to be dealt with. There's a dormant volcano just there, just smouldering, just ready in case. But I think it's nice to have the player characters able to actually influence that rather than it be something that happened in the far past. So in my world, in Argor, that blessed western island has not been destroyed yet and is not beyond help yet. Obviously, I can't zoom in on every single thing, so I picked out a particular location which I think might be of interest to the party, and that is Seven Isles, and there's a close-up of the main island of the Seven Isles main isle, imaginatively named. And like I say, the Seven Isles are a little microcosm of Argor. All the races are there. The Rhodus are there, or most of the races are there. The Rhodus are there. The Aegis are there. There are orcs and giants and halflings and humans and elves and dwarves. And so it's like a nice little starter area for a new character. Main Isle is the most safe and stable island for one of the the free peoples, the humans, good humans, elves, dwarves, halflings. So that's a good place to start. Then they can stretch their wings, explore, raid the other islands, and then from there go maybe to either land, sea, or to the mainland. And if they do go to the mainland, there's a city resource, which I call Caradelm. There we have it. Actually, teaching myself how to make a good city resources was one of the things that slowed me down. Benefit of it, though, is I've got another product based on that called Anyberg, and the land's thereabout, and I'll have a look at that. And also teach myself how to draw maps. And a spin-off of that was another product called How to Create Great Fancy Maps Even If You Can't Draw. But I digress. Here's my city resource, Caradelm. It's not just a map. You get the full breakdown of all the professions, where the ale houses are, where the temples are, where the different professions are based in the city, major characters, major events in its history, all that sort of thing, and some nice pictures too. So you've got a city resource, you've got some location resources, you've got enough to get you going there. Argor Light, which I mentioned about previously, actually I should just bring back the character sheet to help describe that. Whilst this is a very straightforward set of rules, it may still be a bit much for someone young who's being introduced to games. So what you can do if you want is not bother with these skill sections. Just generate the points and have a generic combat skill and a generic agility skill. And then you can just sort of say, okay, it don't matter whether you're picking up a sword or you're firing a bow, you've got a +4 on everything you do. And anything you do that's agile, you've got a +2. Whatever these things are, you just have a simple roll. It's a much more simplistic approach. It lends itself to something like solo games as well. So the solo game in the back of Argor is based on Argor Light. So you can introduce someone with a very, very reduced set of numbers to learn to the game, and then there's notes on how to convert that character to a full character and carry on the game using the full rules once they're familiar with it. Okay, well, that's pretty much it. I'll just spoil things slightly by putting myself back in view again. Yeah, it was a labour of love. It's a very, very crowded sphere, the area of original fantasy games. There's so many you can choose from, and some of them are massive. No one's really going to be able to compete with the Dungeons and Dragons of the world, and all these other great games are out there. But, I think because I wanted to, I did it for my daughter. I think it's got some value. I think you'll enjoy it. There's a lot in it. If you don't like the rule sets, you can use the resources. If you don't like the resources, I think you'll find the rule set quite good. Use both, of course. Anyway, links to it and to an independent review of it are below. Thanks for watching, and see you soon.